Jonathan, how are you? Which part of the world are you in? You actually have a beautiful background. It looks like you're in the middle of a lake somewhere.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, I'm calling in from New York, and so I'm in a very small, overpriced box at the moment. But yeah, no, my background is the Sagard region in Quebec, which is the name of our fund. And so this is currently the summer view. But if you were talking to me in the winter, these would be snow-covered mountains. So you're currently looking at Sagard in Quebec.
Very nice, very cool. Before we get into it, Jonathan, walk us through your career arc, your story arc of the career. Not so much what you're doing right now and how you got here, more about how did you end up getting to here and the path you took to get there.
Yeah, I mean, so I've worked in the marketing function for my entire career, kind of over 15 years now. And the first block of my career, I would say, was, the kind of big brand, Procter and Gamble, Live Nation Entertainment, where you were doing kind of mass advertising, consumer research, driving people to store. And so that was kind of the first, 5 years of my career in kind of
Yeah,
the more traditional marketing. And then the last kind of 10 to 12 years has really been more in the startup disruptor growth side of the fence, leading marketing teams at challenger brands. I was a CMO of Policy Genius, which is an insurance marketplace in the United States. And now I support a portfolio of global fintech businesses, startups and scale ups as an operating partner. So I assist our companies on go to market, marketing, sales, anything related to revenue acceleration.
got it. Okay. So you're obviously getting a ton of people asking you about AI, which is a key part of our discussion today. And one of the things that prompted me to also reach out to you was a post that you did. We're using, I think the post was marketing people starting to use AI for ads, they're starting to use AI for content, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, especially in your portfolio companies as well. Now, we've been with this for about 2 years. I cannot think of a single marketer that doesn't use AI in what they do. But I don't think I get a feel from all of them that they're using it in the way they would like to have it done. Because more and more I talk to people, I get the question, how are you using it? I've seen three use cases. One is we use it for content creation. I've seen that consistently. They use it for analysis. So they give a little bit of information and say, form me the ICP, tell me a little bit about the persona, things like that. They use it as a coach and in third cases. So analysis, content writing, and as a coach, hey, tell me where should I go? I'm writing this email or I'm going to go meet this person. What should I know about it before I go? Or here's where we seem to be finding problems. Where should I go? But if you peel the second layer of the onion, what are you seeing with, let's start with fintech and just your portfolio. Where are they starting to use AI in a little bit more sophisticated manner than just a very simple write me an email or write me a landing page?
Yeah, I mean, I see the world into kind of, it's a bit of a barbell. There are folks that are established businesses that are using AI to augment and automate and improve existing workflows, be it within the creative team, be it within the business analytics team, be it within paid media, but within the existing structures that already exist in the firm. The second is AI native firms or AI architected firms that are
Mm,
actually building from scratch with new AI tooling. And they are much smaller, under 5 million ARR and annual revenue. And they are looking to reimagine the workflow completely from scratch. And they can because they're small. And so I think the use cases are different between those two sets of folks. The at scale folks who are AI enabled, very much as you're teeing up, right? They're using AI tooling to try and speed up something, automate something, be it content writing or landing page creation or ad creation. So creating a bunch of ad assets for Instagram and Facebook. There's a lot of different sizes you need. Can you use tools to speed that up so that it's not manual? Analysis, LTV analysis, paid media optimization. Often you'd have two, three people doing that by channel. Maybe you can start to use a tool to do that at scale, but it's point solutions within a workflow. And
yeah.
I'm seeing each sub team kind of tackle their own AI tooling to improve their own sets of workflows within marketing.
So if you look at let's take an example of a $100 million company in revenue, and
Yep.
let's assume to a certain extent they have about 25, maybe 30 people in marketing. Within those 30 people in marketing, there are different functions. There's obviously marketing ops, which is the smallest of the lot. There's performance marketing, which may be reasonably big size, content marketing, and then they have different functions themselves, right? So
Mhm.
the one way to look at it, I've heard a CMO talk to me about it, is you look at spend and you say, where are we spending the most amount of money? Is there an opportunity to optimize? Another way to look at it is where we have the most number of people deployed and can we optimize there? A third way to look at it might be where are the processes the most manual and how can we automate there? Where would you recommend people start? Where's because what I'm hearing from a lot of people is everybody's doing experiments, but nobody's doing it for the company. They're doing it on an individual basis.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think I personally have seen the biggest traction come from the practitioners themselves who are
Mm-hmm.
responsible for actually doing the work and delivering the output, tasking them with how should you use AI to improve your job? And the reason why it comes from them is they know where the inefficiency is. And I think the best use cases for AI is what are you doing right now that you really hate doing, that you just have to do over and over and over again? That's super boring. Let's start with something like that, highly repeatable, lower order task, but required for the output. And the second area might be what do you wish you could do, but you don't have time to do? That
Mm-hmm.
we should be doing as an organization, but we don't have the resources, time, or capabilities, and that would really add impact. Those are the two areas I think AI is going to lean into heavily. And I would be asking the individuals that do the work for the insights as to where that will show up. So examples might be, in the earliest days of AI, I have a very good friend who used to be on my team as a copywriter, brilliant copywriter based in the UK. And a lot of folks are like, "Oh my goodness, ChatGPT's out. Like, will that just replace all copywriting?" And she had such a great prompt where she was like, "Actually, I'm so excited that this ChatGPT now exists. If I have to write another Black Friday promo email headline, I'm gonna, go crazy." And
Die.
she'd rather be working her copywriting skills, and she's amazing at it, at higher order tasks than just another Black Friday email. And so folks who are practitioners are using these tools to remove the workflow that's required that they can automate and then switch their time and energy to higher order tasks that could potentially unlock more revenue or growth.
Let me ask you a question just about that. The Black Friday thing prompted me to something, right? A lot of people in marketing organizations I know, if they have this copywriting issue with Black Friday, they tend to have outsourced it. They will hire a freelancer of some sort. They will hire a practitioner sitting remotely who just does some basic work. They don't consider it very high value. They don't but it needs to get done. It's one of those things where you need a
Yep.
Black Friday email, you need a Black Friday landing page. So they usually will get a freelancer. They'll say, get this done. It takes about a month or so. Looking at Upwork, looking at Fiverr as an example, that seems to be dropping off because people seem to be using AI to do that automation work, right, to
Yep.
a large extent. So if you are a copywriter and you say, man, if I had to do another Black Friday, why are you doing it in the first place? Shouldn't you be either have outsourced it already or shouldn't you have already figured this out? And the second question I have, there are a lot of people I talk to, Jonathan, that are unfortunately so unaware of the inefficiencies in what they do every day because that's the way they've done it. They don't know that they're cutting and pasting because they're like, oh, this is the way to do it. This is the only way I've learned how to do it. How does someone who's outside looking in look at it and go, man, this is inefficient. You can just automate this because the practitioner themselves, has done it all this way and they know that this is the best way to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, they're two separate questions. So I think on the copywriter example, why wasn't it outsourced? I think so this individual was kind of the brand lead on a brand. And so they were tasked with, creating all the email infrastructure. They may not have had a freelancer budget. That could be one thing.
Mm,
But if they were using freelancers, probably the reason why is because after they did that the fourth, fifth, sixth, 10th time, they didn't want to do it anymore, right? It gets back to
yeah,
this use case of what work must you do that's really annoying and boring and repetitive that you want to be able to outsource or automate. I think
yeah.
that is a really prime use case for AI. So I think in that scenario, that would be a great use case. On the question around kind of, it's the only way I've ever done it, so therefore, uh, that's just how it gets done. I think, there's two types of folks that will be able to kind of move forward the AI implementation. I think it's the folks in function who might be proactive on it, love testing new tools and reimagining how things could get done. That's not everybody, but that's a certain percentage of people who are doing the work. And then there are going to be, AI specialists, right? Kind of AI ops that might come in and take a look at workflows saying, hey, by the way, we've worked with the product team and the finance team, and we've seen similar efficiencies in a workflow that kind of looks like this. Would you be open to trying a new tool in this area? Because, the person who has always done it the same way may not know that, but you could have a third party suggest those things. So I think it's going to take both tech-enabled, innovative people in the function, and then maybe some shared learnings across an organization where someone's saying, hey, we've seen these other efficiencies in different departments. This looks pretty similar. Let's try it here.
Yeah. No, I think the interesting part you mentioned is AI ops. Are you seeing that as roles already, or is that something within marketing ops, within sales ops, within rev ops, or within, there's a new role, GTM engineer, apparently, that's
Yep.
popping up everywhere in clay-related opportunities. Is
Yep.
AI ops a thing, or is AI ops a part of some of the other existing ops places?
Yeah, I mean, it's super emergent, right? And I think it reminds me of, I'm old enough here, we're both old enough here to remember the days of digital marketing.
Yeah,
And when some Google, Meta, SEO showed up, how did you integrate digital marketing into the orgs, right? It actually wasn't embedded into the teams at first. It was a separate standalone entity because the tooling was different. It was unclear the best practices. Tracking and reporting was really difficult. So it was its own function for a little while until it got so embedded that it just became, it's not digital marketing anymore, it's just marketing. But I think AI is on a similar take where you have certain individuals that might be more tech forward that are just doing it themselves. And other organizations are carving out teams to say, okay, this is a specialized skill set that may not exist within our existing organization. And we're going to supplement that with an AI ops lead or an AI team that will work with these tools specifically and get it integrated into the functions. So I'm seeing
yeah.
both.
Tell me a little bit about how you are using AI yourself. You are in an operational role within a fund, so it's kind of a little bit of helping some of the people who are in the invested companies, and at the same time trying to figure out efficiencies that you can help across a lot of different companies. What are you seeing emerging things that people are starting to use AI for within your companies themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Again, the folks that I'm seeing use it most materially are the first, the innovators and first adopters, right? And that isn't necessarily the company, it's the individuals. So I know certain people who are, there's a fractional CMO that I know based in Toronto, working with very early stage businesses who's using Lovable to create ROI calculators
Mm,
himself for these businesses. Well, before you'd have to brief that into like the engineering organization to do a test, he can just make those himself. Other folks I've seen, they have ingested things like their brand guidelines, and they're using that as a compliance tool. So people who are creating ad assets can say, okay, stick in the ad, and how's it doing related to kind of what legal and compliance and the brand team might say. No, you need to use this color, and you can't use that word because it's illegal. So using a way to kind of automate some of the compliance back and forth that marketing teams need to use as another use case. Versioning, right? So creating ad assets at scale, right? Typically you used to have a graphic designer, you make, an ad for a new campaign, but how many versions of that do you need for
yeah,
Instagram, TikTok, using tooling for that? So those are how I'm seeing some people use it. On the outbound front, on the go-to-market side, I think, like Clay is an example, right? Enriched outbound, kind of combining some of the RevOps infrastructure with SDR stuff is pretty interesting. Enriching data. Uh, yeah, I think there's a couple of use cases, but I think it's really localized to people who are in function that are tinkering and
yeah.
are really trying to move the needle forward themselves.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about starting to use AI. One of the things that you had mentioned in a post recently was AI and content. Let's go through that. A lot of people have been talking to me that they believe content marketing to a large extent is going to either die or is going to morph dramatically. And I can understand the frustration, right? What used to be done by a team of one or two people in content marketing, plus some freelance writers now, they are being burdened with, or they're being tasked with, depending on how you look at it. Here's everything that our AI can produce. Now edit this and make it 10 times, but produce one blog post plus one email plus one thing a week now has become produce 20 a week and edit them, don't really create anything. Where does this change and where does this take content marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't have a crystal ball, so I'm not sure where it will go. But if I was to guess, I think the bar for standing out is just going to go up, right? So if you take a look at outbound, right? The amount of emails you now get, the amount of phone calls you now get, the amount of messages you get is infinitely higher than it was even 5 years ago, enabled by tools. So people are now just ignoring all of them because they've received so many of them. And even if you take a look
Yeah.
at LinkedIn, the number of people I now see posting on LinkedIn is far higher than it was 3 or 4 years ago. And I think AI has a lot to do with that. The flip side is the bar to stand out on that platform now is far higher, right? It's
Yeah.
not just showing up, it's are you different? Is it concise? Does it make sense? Is it authentic? Whatever these things are. I equate it to advertising, right? Back maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you did an ad, okay, maybe you had fewer people doing it, you could pay attention. Now you got to be really good for anybody to pay attention because they're actively trying to avoid you.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's going to get that way with content where it's not good enough to just create it. It needs to be noteworthy, informative, authoritative, or it will just be ignored.
Yeah. I think the interesting part is I've seen a lot of people also doing what we call founder-led branding,
Yep.
which is founder-led brand is becoming an important thing. Founder branding is becoming important because every one of the founders, where it's not just founders, it's also CEOs and executives, right? They can't anymore sit back and say, I have a big brand, I'm Geico, and I'm done. They're like, no, no, no. People need to hear from you why they want, what's the story behind the brand, rather than you provide best prices and I have great support. Right. It's becoming increasingly, I want to find out the people behind it. That's the interesting part. The more and more we see AI, the more and more people are reaching out to the human element of their interaction, the human element of the whole journey.
Yep. No, and it's interesting. I tend to my portfolio. I work across both B2B and B2C businesses,
Yeah.
and I find B2C businesses tend to be most emergent from technology perspective because they have more data, faster conversion cycles, and they're more reactive to trends. And influencer has been large in the B2C space for 10 to 15 years. YouTube, TikTok. There's always been Instagram influencers, but that's now cascading itself into B2B, right? Where B2B is now also, getting a bit more commoditized. There's a lot of different solutions saying the same sort of thing, which is what kind of how you have in the consumer markets
Mhm.
on how many different brands of toothpaste are there. You're leaning into other areas to differentiate founder personality because I don't think it's no longer enough in a commoditized category, even in B2B, to just have a sales force or people going and knocking on doors trying to sell in their service. People are taking inspiration from the consumer markets.
Tell me how AI changes fintech. What's your early view on that? Because what I'm seeing increasingly is what used to be a bank that had a lot of licenses and everything else now is being hit on multiple sides by fintech companies becoming the aggregators and Revolt, obviously Chime, those guys, SoFi. They don't, well, some of them have bank licenses, not all of them do. And they're also pinging a lot of the JP Morgan Chases of the world, trying to provide a better view for their Gen Z customers. Are you seeing a lot of AI being used in fintech operations overall for every aspect of the business, or is it mostly for marketing right now?
No, I mean, I think there's a lot of businesses within our portfolio that are embedding AI into their product, right? And I think that becomes increasingly interesting. And so back to our earlier discussion around what are the best use cases for AI? Something that you can automate that is repeatable, boring, annoying to do, but required, or stuff that you would have liked to do but didn't have time or capacity or resources to. And a lot of what I'm seeing in fintech is personalized level analysis that previously might have been too cost prohibitive to do, or maybe just aggregated, where an individual can then say, okay, I want a retirement plan for myself. Given
Yeah,
my
yeah.
unique scenario, all the assets I have, I want to do a bunch of scenario planning on where I could, put crypto into regular stocks, into cash, and empowered by AI, they can actually see forward-looking projections on that in real time. While previously you might have had to, aggregate that, maybe you got it once a month. These sort of new capabilities are unlocked by AI. So hyper personalization, I think, is really interesting, and allowing startups to offer that to customers maybe for cheaper, lower, faster than the incumbents.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the element of of personalization just within campaigns themselves. I do see a lot of people consistently saying, okay, you can do personalization at every aspect of it. Does personalization just help right now with the top of the funnel, getting people in so that they're like, oh, yeah, it's interesting. You said something that is useful, or is it actually converting and changing into opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I think, in general, performance of campaigns you tend to have higher conversion if you have a more targeted message to a targeted audience that flows through ad, landing page, and offering, right? That's just a better fit if you can do it. The reason why everybody doesn't do it is because it's hard and it's costly and it's kind of annoying to operationalize. The opportunity to do very individualized ad messaging has actually been around for a while. The ability to do personalized landing pages at scale has been a little harder possible, but how big's your team?
Yeah.
That's unlocked by things like Lovable, right? Where you can kind of just have same day shipping for the marketing team who knows what the ad unit is, can then create more of a localized landing page potentially. And then even back to that example I mentioned earlier, maybe you have an ROI calculator. Well, if you have 20 segments, now you can maybe create a personalized ROI calculator for all of those segments that are localized to them. Well, before, you're not going to brief into your engineering team and say, hey, I need 20 calculators. They're going to be like, no, you're not getting that. Maybe you're getting one. So I think those sort of opportunities are now open to folks. I think the outstanding question is, does it materially move the needle in terms of performance? Let's see. I think, we're going to have to see how that bakes out, but the options are now there because of the tooling.
Yeah. Last question for you, Jonathan. When you talk to a lot of folks, when they're putting together new GTM plans, I think this is getting to the point in the time of the year when they're starting to say, okay, we need to plan for 2026. What seems to be getting on the top of the list for a lot of the VP? When I spoke to a lot of CMOs late part of October last year, the big push was attribution, attribution, attribution. AI was on the top of the list, but the big projects were attribution. The year before that, a big push was the ability to be able to do what a lot of CMOs would call performance marketing rationalization. Um, Now I'm hearing some optimization, I'm hearing some agent stuff, but what are the big themes you are seeing overall?
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously the macro trend, which it's been a lot of this conversation, I think, is AI and integration of AI or not, right? And I think it is a topic, I host these think tanks for CMOs periodically. I've done them in New York, London, and San Francisco. And I bring together a group of, leading CMOs in the city, and we discuss various topics that are top of mind. And, 50 to 80% of the conversation is around AI. And it isn't just AI tooling, it can also be AI as it relates to your organization. So, how should I be thinking about my team and ensuring that I have the right people and the right roles? And to our point earlier, like, do I now need an AI ops lead or not? Right? Like, that's an open question that literally 12 months ago, no one was asking because that wasn't even a thing. So, I think there is discussions around teamwork structure and ensuring you have the right capabilities to move things forward and test them. And I think, everyone is still a little bit waiting and seeing the impact of some of these elements, right? A lot of people are testing, a lot of people are trying new tooling. I've seen some wins on pricing efficiency, but I have yet to see one company saying, oh my goodness, this tool halved my CAC, and I'm now working with like five marketers instead of 50. I have yet to see that.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon, also, is my belief. The other interesting part that I mean, I do talk to CMOs a lot is, yesterday or day before yesterday, do you see that MIT report that said
I
95%
did.
of the
Yeah.
organizations don't have any value from AI? I think it's somewhat of a little of a self-fulfilling prophecy sometimes when they throw up their hands and they say, hey, I'm not getting any value. My suspicion to a certain extent is also that the expectations were very high, right? They were expecting 50 to 5. They were expecting CAC halved, and now they're going, CAC has gone up down by 11%. I took my team from 50 down to 47 people. Okay, where's the AI benefit? And whatever I put down in people, I'm spending on AI with vibe coding and ChatGPT Premium Pro Plus plans for everybody. It's half a dozen of one versus six of the other.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that that will be the case. I think I think a lot of the efficiency that we're seeing in the earliest days of AI is really just automation, right? There's further level of automation that's now required or a possible rather. And that's still, I'll take that, right? Like it's efficiency gained. And if, 10% less CAC, I'll take that. But it isn't, reimagining everything from scratch, like some folks I think had hoped maybe it would at the earliest days.
Awesome. This was terrific, Jonathan. Thanks for the good conversation. Glad we got connected. This was very, very good. And for folks that want to get in touch with you, LinkedIn is probably the best place to go.
Yes, follow me on LinkedIn, comment on my stuff. I always love kind of hearing people's perspectives. So thanks so much for having me. It was a great chat.
Thank you, Jonathan. Take care, man.
Bye.